Hello there, Diocese of the Rio Grande, and welcome to this, your weekly update for the second week of Advent 2024. In this weekly update, I want to offer you a couple of quick announcements, and then we're going to dive right into an interview about military chaplaincy in the Diocese of the Rio Grande. The reason we're talking about military chaplaincy this week is because, of course, our saint, the Blessed Ted Howden, who was a military chaplain and gave up his food and his life serving others during the Bataan Death March in World War II. Ted Howden, our saint, his Saints' Day is coming up this Wednesday. I want to make sure you are all observing that, and I want you to know more about what it is to be a military chaplain. Before we jump into that interview, a couple of quick announcements. The first one is December 15th is our open house at Bishop's Ridge. Bishop's Ridge, of course, is our camp just outside of Santa Fe. And every year during the holiday time, during Advent, we have an open house. We'd love for you to come up in the afternoon there, enjoy some food, listen to some good bluegrass music, and get to know the place. I also want to make sure that all of you know that you can get a weekly email from the diocesan office that has details of all kinds of helpful news and information that you need to know as a member of the Diocese of the Rio Grande. If you're not already on that weekly email list, just give the diocesan office a call, ask for Annette, and Annette will get you on that mailing list so you don't miss any of the important things that are happening in the Diocese of the Rio Grande. And now on to the interview. My friends, I give you Bishop Ann Ritonia, the Episcopal Bishop for the Armed Forces and Federal Ministries, and Chaplain from the U.S. Navy, Jamal Scarlett.
Well, good afternoon, Diocese of the Rio Grande. My name is Ann Ritonia, and I'm the Bishop of the Armed Forces and Federal Ministries of the Episcopal Church. So my responsibilities are to provide care and nurture to our military chaplains, our VA chaplains, our Bureau of Prison chaplains, as well as recruit chaplain candidates, chaplains from other denominations that may already be serving in the military and would like to become part of the Episcopal Church, as well as I go to colleges and I talk to college students and Canterbury clubs about potential vocations to the priesthood. And I want to also thank all of you in the Diocese of the Rio Grande for the work that you do in helping form priests for the Episcopal Church. You're a really important partner for us, and we couldn't do the work that we do without you. You may not be aware of it, but Ken and Michael Perko helps with the formation of our chaplains that are coming from other denominations, and your commission on ministry guides them through the process. And the partnership that I have with Bishop Michael Hun is one that is just invaluable for us. He has been so supportive of our ministry, and he is the canonically designated jurisdiction for all of our military chaplains that are coming over from other denominations. So I'm just so grateful for the partnership that we share. Some of the wonderful things about my work is I get to travel all around the world and meet with our chaplains, see what they need in regards to pastoral support, spiritual support, and I get to meet their families and talk to commanders to get a pulse on what's going on around the world. And it is really a privilege to be able to do that. Additionally, I visit our prison chaplains, and I'm able to talk to adults that are in custody about the importance of faith in their journey and how it is turning around their lives. And then I get to work with veterans, both our Veterans Administration hospitals, the chaplains that serve there, but also I work individually with veterans as well, and also serve at the National Cathedral when I'm in town. Most of my work is done on the road, and it is just a joy to be able to participate in this kind of work. Well, today I have with me Chaplain Jamal Scarlett, who is a Navy chaplain. You can see he's in uniform today, and he's got all of his ribbons on. I see that Meritorious Service Medal ribbon, Jamal. Excellent. And I'm going to let Jamal introduce himself, and then I've got some questions that I'll ask Jamal. And we're going to record this, so you'll be getting it. And if you have any questions, I want you to know that you can always reach out to our office at Armed Forces and Federal Ministries. So Jamal, why don't you introduce yourself?
Well, wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Your Grace. I certainly appreciate it. Thank you for the time and the opportunity to speak to the Diocese of the Rio Grande. My name is Jamal Scarlett, and I have had the privilege of serving as a United States Navy chaplain, particularly an Episcopal chaplain, since 2022. So very grateful for the work that has been done in the Diocese of the Rio Grande. And as Bishop has said, that many of us who were coming from different denominations into the Episcopal Church came through the chaplain transition process, where Canon Perko spent many hours with us, and so very grateful for the work that he does, and then also some of the work that they did with the Commission on the Ministry of the Baptized, and any number of people that played a significant part in bringing me into the household of faith here in the Episcopal Church. And so very grateful to be with you. Just a few things about myself. I am a first generation American, where my father and my mother are from the country of Panama. And so they came to Panama by way of the United States Navy. And so both of them served as Navy enlisted sailors for 6 and 8 years. And we ended up in San Diego, California. So if I were going to pick a service, it was determined before time began that I was going to be in the Navy. And so, my call and vocation to the Navy really comes out of a real desire to serve my country, coupled with a commitment to serve God, to serve all people, and to be able to make those two things work. Just worked. I mean, it was a wonderful opportunity, and with the help of the COMB, as well as many ministers and prayer warriors and intercessors, here I am today. So very grateful for that. I'm also the husband of one wonderful wife. Her name is Janice Scarlett. And so we have been married for 22 years. And
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We have 4 kids. Currently worship at St. Michael's by the Sea in Carlsbad. And so we are here in San Diego, California, where I also serve active duty wise as chaplain for 1st Marine Division. I'm currently serving as 11th Marines Regimental Chaplain. So sort of overseeing 3,400 Marine sailors and their families and providing religious ministries to them. So it's a tremendous opportunity, and I'm very grateful for it.
Excellent. So what is the average age of the folks that you supervise and care for?
It's a great question. The average age is anywhere between 18 and 25. The lion's share of Marines, I would say, I believe that the number is close to like 70%, are within that age. They're very young. They're just coming out of high school. They may have done a year or two or have completed college degrees, and then they come into the Marine Corps. And so these are young folks who are hungry. They love their country, and they want to do some sort of service, and they found themselves in the Marine Corps. And so about 18 to 25 is the answer to that.
So Navy chaplains don't just serve in the Navy. So where else do they serve besides the Marine Corps?
It's a good question. Yes. So the Navy chaplains serve, yes, as we said, the Marine Corps, with the Marine Corps, but also with the Coast Guard as well. And so I had the privilege of serving U.S. Coast Guard District 8 in St. Louis, Missouri from 2019 to 2022, where we did a lot of hurricane response And so it was a wonderful opportunity. If you are thinking about Navy chaplaincy, please come and talk to me. It's a great place to be. But we pretty much oversee the ministry for all three sea services. And so it's a tremendous obligation, tremendous responsibility, and one that I'm very proud to be a part of.
So I'm curious, what's an average day look like for a chaplain?
Hmm. Well, that I tell you what, that varies. But I can tell you, it's not static. There is always something to do. I can give you an example. Yesterday, I was in the office doing some admin work. So I probably do about maybe 1 hour, 1 to 2 hours worth of admin. But very quickly, we had an accident at one of the ranges, and sadly, one of our Marines passed away. And so went into emergency sort of first responder mode, responding to both the death, but also to those who witnessed it, and doing some counseling on the ground. The same time that later that afternoon, attended a celebration of life, a memorial service for an 8-year-old child who had passed away after an accident right down the street. And so with 200 other Marines and their families just paying tribute and saying, thanking God for his life, and I'm just really saddened by what had transpired there. And follow that by a regimental run in honor of the Marine Corps birthday, which is happening on Monday, right? And so it's things are constantly moving, and there's I suppose there's a wealth of opportunity to be able to minister in the hard places,
Right.
the places where it matters, when it matters, and most importantly, with what matters. And so that was just yesterday, but it could be anything on any given day. Really, it's an opportunity to, like I said, minister in the hard places.
Jamal, I'm so grateful that you were there for your Marines and for their families yesterday.
Yeah.
It's just remarkable the impact that a chaplain can have, not only in a unit, but for the community at large. So thank you. I know those days are challenging.
Yeah.
So where do you find joy in your ministry?
Oh, there is just joy. And this is a good question, because I think, somebody asked me the other day, like, you've been doing this for about a decade, do you get tired of it? And what do you like about your job? And very easily, my response every time I get asked that question is, one, I wake up every morning saying, thank God I get to do this. Um, and so there is just this fire, because I'm meeting new people. We're engaging in issues of real life. Marines are not passive. They will tell you exactly how they feel right then and there. Right?
I know that well.
So you really have a chance to really get to the heart of something very quickly, which is also a blessing. But at the same time, there are a couple other things. The joys for me, especially, is meeting new people, of course, but also say traveling and living in different parts of the world, right? Experiencing different cultures. My last tour took me to Italy, Spain, France, Bahrain, Japan, Costa
Wow.
Rica, Colombia, and then all parts of the contiguous and non-contiguous United States, right? So everywhere. And I know I'm missing a few, but being able to travel and to experience other people's cultures, and then at the same time, being able to see the church in those places, in its beauty, in its diversity, and then also being able to play a part sometimes or oftentimes as a visiting priest in parishes where sometimes the rector is the only person that's there and may need a respite. And so to be able to supply for that person and to be able to be a place of support for a fellow priest or deacon. And so I think that's really the joys of the job.
This weekly update is brought to you by Bishop's Ridge. Bishop's Ridge is the camp of the Diocese of the Rio Grande, located just 15 minutes from the plaza in beautiful Santa Fe, New Mexico. If you've never been to Bishop's Ridge, Advent and Christmas and the New Year are a wonderful time to join us at Bishop's Ridge, where there's often snow falling on the ground, a fire in the fireplace, good food for your belly, and a wonderful time to experience Santa Fe in the wintertime. Bishop's Ridge is the low-cost alternative in Santa Fe. I'd also love to welcome you, your group, or your family to book a retreat, a vacation, or a time of quiet prayer at Bishop's Ridge, where you can rent a 5-bedroom family home, an A-frame for a larger group, or I'd be happy to welcome you to the Bishop's Hermitage for a private, silent, prayerful retreat or art vacation at Bishop's Ridge. You can Google Bishop's Ridge and or find us on VRBO or Airbnb. I look forward to seeing you at Bishop's Ridge very soon.
So tell me, chaplains are non-combatants. So what does that mean for you as a chaplain ministering with Marines? What does that mean?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think so. The policy says that chaplains are not to seek out a weapon, and so part of our responsibility is to minister to those Marines and sailors who are called to defend. And so I can be on patrol with Marines in, say, Djibouti or Navy personnel in Djibouti, but I am not carrying a weapon. My RP or religious personnel or professional is going to be my bodyguard, essentially. So he or she will be able to protect me in the event that things get more kinetic. But on principle and based on policy, we are not to be seeking out weapons. We do not carry weapons. We do not take them out of the armory. And so that is both sort of the gift. It's also one of those challenging situations where people are like, hey, Japs, well, you can, well, no, actually, there are certain things that we cannot do. And I think that's it's on the whole, it's positive in that, and then I bring something very different to the table than everybody else, right? We have a number of our staff officers who are, they're medics, they're dentists, they're docs, and they all, and they're judges, and they all can carry weapons, but the chaplain does not. And so it's an opportunity, I think, to be able to speak to maybe some of the ways in which, we can help in other ways other than militarily in that way. So
when I think of the role of a chaplain, what exactly are you charged to do?
yes, so it's a great question. I think that's, it really gets to the heart of chaplaincy. So I will say, just sort of speaking for the Navy, the Marine Corps, and the Coast Guard, I would say the 4 core responsibilities of any chaplain are to do 4 things. First thing is to provide, and that is to provide for your own faith group. And so I am a Christian chaplain, an Episcopal chaplain, and so that means services as needed, or services on Sunday mornings or Wednesdays. It could be morning prayer. It could be spiritual care and counseling. It could be confession. Being able to provide that for that First Amendment right to many of our sailors and Marines and Coast Guardsmen who desire to practice their faith and to be heard from a spiritual point of view. So that's the first thing. I think the second thing is to facilitate the free exercise of religion for others. right? So very cognizant of the fact that we work in a very pluralistic environment and that not everyone comes from a Christian tradition or a Christian background. And so being able to facilitate for others in the way that, say Ramadan is upon us, making sure that we have all of the materials to ensure that our Muslim sailors and Marines can practice faithfully their faith. And then also communicating that to the command, saying, hey, these Marines, they're not going to be eating from sunup to sundown. We need to make sure that whatever they're doing is sort of is in line with that, and that we don't potentially have them, completely they're on limb due when they go to the hospital because they're not eating and all the rest, right? So just being able to facilitate that for others, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot for a lot of our Jewish sailors and Marines, just being able to facilitate for them.
So you don't lead those services though, do you?
I do not lead those services. No. So we have our lay leaders. So if there is a need, and if the need is there, we usually we will work with Jewish lay leaders. We'll work with Muslim lay leaders, pagan lay leaders, you name it, and ensure that there is someone who can lead it. But then also, if there is no one there on the ship or on base, we can connect them to some of our imams who are chaplains or rabbis who are chaplains, or connect them with folks outside of the community to help foster some facilitation for them as well.
Right.
So provide, facilitate. Third part is care, and that's to care for all. Right. So regardless of whether or not that person has a faith background or not, that's my sailor, that's my Marine, and I'm going to do everything I can for that person. So sometimes that looks like doing what's called applied suicide intervention skills training for folks, whether that looks like providing financial counseling classes, whether that looks like premarital counseling or counseling with relationships, any number of things to make sure that my sailor, my Marine, knows that I'm there to care for them, right, regardless of their faith background. And then finally, it's advise, and that's to advise the command on all things as it relates to ethics and morale. And so oftentimes the command will say, hey, chaps, I know you've been walking spaces. I know you've been talking to my people. What's the sense on the ground, right? And without breaking confidentiality, just being able to speak into maybe some of the blind spots that maybe they have not seen before or people have not talked about. And so being that fourth part of the triad who is looking out for the health and welfare of their Marines and their sailors. So so provide, facilitate, care, and advise.
So tell me about this confidentiality thing. What's that like? Because in church world, we're mandatory reporters for
Right.
certain things. So how is that different in the military?
Well, it's different in the military because we're non-mandated reporters. We are not mandated to report. And that makes it very challenging for some, to be very clear. People come to me and I will say to them, you can tell me anything you want. And anything you say will not go back to your command. And so they can talk about literally anything they want. And whatever is said there stays there. It's like the old adage, whatever happened in Vegas stays in Vegas. Whatever is said there stays there. I promise. It's not going anywhere. It is staying right there. And so I think sometimes that's a gift because folks can really express and freely express what's on their heart. And they can really name that thing without any recourse. And so it creates a safe space for a lot of our Marines and sailors to unload and really to leave that place a little freer than they did when they walked in. And so it's a real great opportunity there.
That sounds sacramental in nature, almost the sanctity of the confessional.
That's right.
And what a gift that is for our Marines and sailors and Coast Guardsmen. I mean, to have that kind of place. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So, as I think about the work of our folks in the military, what do you think the local church can do to support our active duty military, and why is that important?
So, it used to be the case that on every base or every post, you had a chapel from which, families and active duty personnel attended services and Bible studies and Al-Anon classes and other kinds of ministry. But nowadays, ministry across the services are shifting, and they're moving from what we called a chapel-centric ministry into what we're calling a campus-centric model, which is sort of mobilizing the chaplain to be incarnational. That is to say, to be in the places where the people are, where the people work, and not in a specific chapel waiting for people to come to them, right? And so, that said, if service personnel and their families do attend church, they go to church offsite, right? And your church, right? It's important to you because these soldiers, these sailors, Marines, Coast Guardsmen are looking for places of worship where their families, I would say, number one, feel safe. Two, where the gospel is being preached. And three, where the sacraments are rightly being administered. Full stop, right? Those three things, I would say, is what many Marines and sailors have communicated to me, that this is what I'm looking for. I want to make sure that the place is safe. I want to hear a message of hope. And I want to make sure that whatever we're doing, sacramentally or otherwise, is done well and orderly. That's a great place for the Episcopal Church to be. That is our church, right? And so I think it's an opportunity, for them to engage with people off base, both as a reminder of who they're fighting for, right? But also an opportunity to be with people that don't always think or act or look like them, right? I think isolation oftentimes leads to siloed thinking. And so I think it's a really great opportunity that can easily be squandered if we don't focus on the main things. I think, if we're talking about military personnel, right, there is an expectation, and you hear this in the Navy all the time, to be brilliant on the basics, right? We just be brilliant on the basics, the people will come. Love our folks, anybody who walks in that door. Make sure that the community is a safe place, that there is a gospel message of hope, and that we are rightly administering the sacrament. People will come, and I think that's important to us because we are, as I believe William Temple said, we are the only organization that exists for those who are not members, and so that's what I'd say.
So how can local churches reach out to military communities? What types of things can they do to let them know that they're there and they want to support our military?
Well, I would say a couple of things. One, sometimes there is this. I don't want to make any presumptions, but I do want to say military members are dynamic. They're not static. That they're not a monolith is what I mean to say. Is that there's so many different kinds of people who they're complex, just as human beings are, and so to try and pigeonhole military members into, well, there are certain values that they hold that I don't hold. I think that can be a place where members or service personnel may not necessarily feel safe in, if that's the way that we're going to approach these service personnel, right? So just making sure that that you're curious, right? Be curious. Sometimes people don't want to talk about their work. Sometimes people don't want to talk about their, what they've done in the past, but but to be a student of every person that walks in that church. I would say start there.
That is so important, and I think not just for military members, but for anybody who walks in the doors of our church. And
Agreed.
yeah, and I think our chaplains have a lot to teach our clergy about what it means to be with, and that incarnational kind of ministry. I know, at least from my own perspective, it was often very difficult to get outside of the office because there were so many competing demands for time, but that it's so important to be able to go out and be with your people and be available.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's
Absolutely.
certainly not easy. So, when we think about what you do, how does chaplaincy then connect to the work of the wider church?
So it's a great question. I think so part of this is the church. So the church has an opportunity. Chaplains are constantly moving every 2 and 3 years at a time. And so we are very much a plug and play community, right? So you get in there and here we are. I've just been here for 3 weeks, but I know the liturgy and we have a common language. There are things that might be a little different, but on the whole, can plug in very quickly and execute. And so I think there's a real gift there. And sometimes there's a challenge because you don't know this person, you don't know me, and that in a sense requires risk and trust. But I think there are many chaplains who are out there that are looking for opportunities to, whether it's to preach, because sometimes we're not in places where preaching or services are being regularly instituted. I think there's a real great opportunity there. I think also, the chaplain has a unique opportunity into sort of a unique purview into service personnel and the military in general. And if you are in a town that has service personnel, like San Diego, like anywhere in Virginia, anywhere in Texas, New York, North Carolina, Florida, there is the value of a chaplain increases incrementally because therein lies an opportunity for us to really engage in meaningful ways with people in the service personnel or in the military communities. And so if they're in your churches, I would encourage you, use your people, talk to them, and chaplains are more than happy to be able to be used in that way, really for the greater good of the church, and for the sake of the gospel.
Wow. Yeah, I can't agree with you more on that. So when I think about when military units deploy and they leave their families behind,
Right.
for the local church to be able to step in and kind of be that family and support them while their spouse or father is gone. I think our mother, it's so vital that we do that kind of work as well.
Well, and I would also say, because here in the Marine Corps, at Camp Pendleton, essentially every unit has a sponsor, and some of those sponsors across Camp Pendleton are churches. And so 11th Regiment, our sponsor is South Shores Church in Laguna Niguel, and they come out and they do service projects on base with our military service members. And a lot of the work that needs to be done in these facilities are not being done. And therein lies an opportunity for a ministry. And they've essentially created this ministry where they're as Jesus was, they're carpenters. They're out there doing some significant work. They're also have a very robust furniture ministry for many of our service personnel who don't have furniture. What do you do when you're 18 years old and you don't you've never lived on your own. What bed do I use? Do I have to buy a TV, a couch, food, all the rest? South Shores Church has answered the mail for us at 11th Marines, and they've provided tremendous ministry, so much so that in their service, they're not evangelizing, but in their service, people are asking the question, why are you doing this? And what is the hope and the joy that lies in you that causes you to leave your comfy Laguna Niguel home
Hmm.
15 minutes away to come here on a Saturday and help put up drywall in the barracks. Um,
Wow.
yeah, and so there's tremendous opportunity that's there.
So
Uh,
how
so
does the Episcopal Church make that connection then to be able to sponsor a unit?
yeah, so I would say, so at least within the Marine Corps and the Navy, the Marine Corps has what's called installation chaplains. And so the installation chaplains are responsible for essentially the whole installation, Camp Pendleton in and of
Mm,
itself.
yeah.
Uh, and the Navy has very, very similar ways of doing that. There's always a base chaplain or command chaplain that's there. Being able to talk with that person and say to him or her, hey, um, we'd like to get involved. How can we help to support what's happening on the ground? So instead of bringing a program saying, hey, we would like to do this, it's saying, where do you need help? Where are the holes and how can we help to fill them?
That's a great perspective.
Mhm.
That's fantastic. Now, are there barriers sometimes that maybe installation chaplains don't want the Episcopal Church on base?
There are, well, when it comes to work, I will say, um, maybe there are fewer boundaries when it's free.
Okay.
So there's that. But I will say, I think there are different parts of the chaplain corps that how do I say this diplomatically? They pose sort of a challenge to those who are not especially conservative, um, and those who do not like, whether it's our communities, LGBTQ communities, communities of color, identity communities, and that can be a challenge. Um, the gift of the Episcopal Church, and we've always been a part of the Navy and the Marine Corps as chaplains as long as time has been,
Right.
we've had a Marine Corps. And so talk to your Episcopal chaplains. That's my encouragement to you. Talk to your Episcopal chaplains. If you find um, if there's any sort of consternation with a person because they don't like your institution or they don't like what you stand for, um, please do not allow that to be a barrier. Allow that to be an opportunity to educate, really an opportunity to really unveil the fact that there is, I don't know if it's injustice. We want to make sure to name that thing and get past it so that we can actually help the Marines and sailors that we're actually meant to help.
Mhm.
And so that person, uh, I'm hoping that person gets out of the way
Yeah.
and makes room at the table because there's plenty good room at the table here. So
Wow,
that's
that's
what
great. Thank you. Thank you for those insights.
I.
Finally, my last question to you is, tell me how the Diocese of the Rio Grande has supported you in your journey.
Oh my. Oh, so I'm going to tell you a story, and I'm sorry, I'm not a. This is going to be short. I'm going to try and make it very short.
We have time. We have time.
Okay. Okay. Well, in June of 2022, I'll start there. I was on my way from Newport, Rhode Island to Albuquerque, New Mexico to be ordained to the diaconate in the Diocese of the Rio Grande. And as Murphy would have it, nothing went according to plan. My flight from New York to DC was delayed for 5 hours. Once I arrived at 3 in the morning, I received word that my flight to New Mexico was delayed for an additional 5 hours. By the time I got to Albuquerque, I had missed the silent retreat that they were having, but I had gotten there, and so I was grateful, saying, "Thank you, God. I'm here. I missed some things, but I'm here." No more than 5 seconds after saying that, I received word that my luggage had accidentally been sent to Los Angeles.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, my military uniforms, my vestments, my toothbrush, right, all lost, right? And so, first call, I notified Ken and Perko, and then I had contacted the bishop, and the bishop assured me, saying that everything was going to be well. All is well, and all is going to be well. And he had also said that I could use his clergy collar, which I still have to this day. Sorry about that, Your Grace. So it was wonderful. But I had arrived at the church the next morning, and the dean of the cathedral led me to the vesting room, where he placed an alb on me, a cincture, and then placed in my hand a deacon's stole. My fellow diaconal candidates told me, "Hey, we were praying for you all night, not knowing whether or not you were going to make it." And in very real terms, the church clothed me and made me a deacon. And so that is the ministry of the Diocese of the Rio Grande, to me and to my family. Um, they've opened their doors wide and really allowed me the opportunity to learn, to train, to be formed in the Anglican tradition, unlike I had been before. Ken and Michael Perko in particular made sure that coming to the Episcopal Church would be, that those who were coming to the Episcopal Church would be priests for the whole church, not simply a small pocket of people, but for the whole church. But Bishop Hahn took time to meet with me on a few different occasions, ensuring that I was clear on the process, and and that I knew the way forward. Canon Leslie Stevenson Nunez and her team worked with the diocese to put together a commission on the ministry of the baptized for me on a few separate occasions. There have been so many people that have encouraged me across or along the way, to continue on. We're gonna get through this. My work was incredibly demanding, but their prayers and all of the hands, all of the work that's been done by the diocese, I could not have made it without their prayers, and so I'm incredibly grateful. And so it's a sad thing that I was not able to make it out there this past year, but I do look forward in the coming years to come and to say thank you, to shake hands, to hug, and to be there with the family. So it's a great place to be, and I'm again grateful for every moment of it.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for spending some time with talking to me about chaplaincy, and just know how grateful I am for all that you're doing and the lives that you're touching. And I know that God has got great things planned for you, both in the military, but I think I know even after that part of your life is over. So just keep up the good work.
Thank you.
I look forward to hearing more great things from you.
Thank you, Your Grace.
Yeah.
Thank you, Diocese.
That's your weekly update for this second week of Advent 2024. May you prepare the way for Jesus coming into your heart this holy season.